Welcome to Ray Reads, a podcast where I talk about the books I'm currently reading like I'm in a sad little one-man book club. For this episode of Ray Reads, I will be discussing The Name of All Things, which is Book 2 in Jenn Lyons' Chorus of Dragons series. As always, I must warn you that there will be spoilers. Alright, let's dive in. To start, I would like to say that I appreciate how the author, Jenn Lyons, is committing to the record of events format from the first book, The Ruin of Kings. This time, however, the record is provided by Cinera for her master, Rolomar. I love Cinera as the transcriber because of how much her personality shines through her annotations. She is so sarcastic and snarky, and she never hesitates to interject with her own opinion. At some point, Cinera had read Thirbashar's record of events, and she makes a point of dissing and critiquing it. While Thirbashar had taken a more scholarly, professional approach to his record, he also had taken a few creative liberties with it that Cinera finds disagreeable. I assume that Cinera dislikes the random point of view from the prostitute Thirbashar provided to briefly illustrate the beginning of the Hell March. Cinera is a great villain in this story because she isn't purely evil. She often bemoans the fact that Rolosvar's methods are unpleasant. Janelle once walked in on Cinera crying over a drawn portrait of an unknown Joratese boy. This display of vulnerability is especially interesting since Cinera claims in her footnote that she has no memory of this little event. Although she could easily be lying, I'm compelled to wonder if Rolosvar is tampering with her memories magically somehow. If my theory holds up, then this could possibly explain why Thirbashar cares about Cinera so much. With his witch gift, Thirbashar has access to memories that have been forgotten, or in this case, possibly erased memories. But assuming that I'm wrong about this, I still really want to know why Thirbashar cares so deeply about Rolosvar's student. So this brings me to Rolosvar himself. I am so intrigued by this villain, and I need to know more about him. He is wonderfully complex. It's great that he has a larger presence in this story. Under the guise of Father Zahara, Rolosvar is a significant figure in both Janelle and Brother Quone's upbringings. And while he was grooming them to fulfill the prophecies, he still loved them. He realizes the moment Quone makes the connection between his identities as Rolosvar and Father Zahara, and a heartbroken expression flashes across his face. He gauged Quone out of necessity, but he does what he can to care for the priest. Rolosvar brings Quone his favorite meals and provides him with the option of returning to the Vijay Temple of Light. When Brother Quone decides to stay, Rolosvar entrusts him with the cornerstone, World Hearth. While Quone is expected to use World Hearth to spy for Rolosvar, he also understands that he was gifted the cornerstone to help him cope with the Geishing. Rolosvar encourages Quone to believe in himself because he is one of his best students. He respects Brother Quone as an upstanding Vizai priest who he created to be better than himself. Rolosvar wants to remake the world to become befitting of good people like Brother Quone. As for Janelle, it is undeniable that Rolosvar cares about her. He is the one who saves 8-year-old Janelle when the Emperor fails to exorcise the demon queen Zeltarath. As Father Zahara, he brings Janelle to the Temple of Light to personally see to her physical and spiritual healing. Janelle views Father Zahara as a grandfatherly figure and feels that she can safely cry in his arms. Rolosvar, in return, feels paternal toward Janelle, as he demonstrated when he gives the father talk to Kieran, saying that if he breaks Janelle's heart, then he will make his life a living hell. So Rolosvar is capable of loving others, but such feelings have never stood in the way of his goals. He has betrayed the people closest to him, including his younger brother and his former student/lover, Taya. Now I have to add a side note here with a little spoiler for the next book. We know by now that all of the dragons are related to members of the Eight. So it turns out that the Dragon Rolomar is the son of Taya and Raylosvar. This is especially interesting, and I bring it up now because of how Raylosvar reacts when he admits to Kieran that the cornerstone, the Stone of Shackles, is the metaphorical heart belonging to Rolomar. As he mentions his son here, a loathing expression flashes across his face. I wonder why that is. On the subject of dragons, let's talk about Raylosvar's niece, Aeneric. The Lady of Storms is Kieran's daughter in his past life. She is described by Taya as having been once a lovely little girl with the brightest smiles. I would like to know more about Aeneric, and it's a shame that she never speaks. It doesn't really make sense that she doesn't talk. Shiranikal and Morios are quite capable of communicating verbally. Aeneric is sane enough to follow her uncle's orders, so I really just don't see a reason for her to not speak. It makes it seem as though she has much less personality than the other dragons. At least Janelle has a vibrant personality. She is 100 times better than Kieran as a main character. She makes Kieran seem small, petty, and selfish in comparison. Janelle is a fine product of her upbringing as a Joratese stallion. She tries to abide by the law, but her fierce need to protect encourages her to step in and fight for what's right, no matter the consequences. Janelle is the greatest hero, and I think that's why Raylosvar said he wants her to wield the sword Godslayer, also known as Ythranil, as one of the prophesied Hell Warriors. Side note, when exactly did Kieran and Teraith deduce that there are 4 Hell Warriors rather than a single one? They mentioned it in the last book that they suspected as much, but I just want to know what specifically led them to that conclusion. Anyway, I love the love triangle between the 3 out of the 4 Hell Warriors. This love triangle is unique because the attraction flows in both directions for each character. The first book revealed how Teraith desires Kieran. In this book, we actually get to see Teraith's first encounters with Janelle, who was his wife in their past lives. The two experience an immediate connection now because of that former bond. Janelle then has the same experience with Kieran, and while Kieran is still in denial, it's obvious that he is also attracted to Teraith. His breath catches when he sees a beautiful Manol Vinay, mistaking Mithros for his grandson Teraith. I'm going to be straight up honest right now. I do not, absolutely do not, ship Janelle with Kieran. I really don't see the compatibility between them. Kieran may respect her and be enamored with her, but I don't think that's enough for them to build their relationship yet. Teraith and Kieran are my OTP all the way. The attraction between them is the only one that merits any true consideration in their current lifetimes. It is sweet that love can live through multiple lifetimes, but I don't want it interfering with my OTP, which stands for only true pairing, by the way. This reminds me of one more thing I want to point out. Intense feelings from previous lives stay with the person's soul. This obviously includes love, but also hate and distrust. Janelle experiences this negative connection with Raylosvar during their first encounter in Marina. Only his appearance changed to her from the familiar form of Father Zahara here. His soul must have remained the same in either guise, so why didn't Janelle feel this way with Father Zahara? The last thing I want to talk about is the LGBTQ representation in this series. It warms my little gay heart to have so much representation in a single book. Jority's culture is wonderful for being so inclusive of all identities. They have an event sanctioned by the goddess Galava called the Festival of Turning Leaves, which allows people to transition to their desired sex. Many characters, such as Dorna and Markriva Roth, have participated in this event. Participation is entirely voluntary, and people like Janelle, who's female bisex but identifies as a male stallion, are not obligated to transition against their will. I greatly appreciate the representation of gender identities and that the Jorities include gelding as a non-binary gender. Jority's culture is also very open regarding sexuality. Polyamory and same-sex couples are widely accepted here. Jority's people have a healthy understanding of consent, well, maybe except for Orith, but most people, they usually have no problem with taking no for an answer. This is a quality even Cinera expresses admiration for. I think Cinera might be asexual, but hopefully not only because of her past as a sex slave. Well, that just about wraps up my discussion on The Name of All Things. I love this book so much, and it may even be the best one in this series.